Good afternoon, Parker Hendrik Croft. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am extremely grateful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well today. It's a beautiful day in sunny LA. Got no complaints. How about you? How you doing over there?
I am doing very good because, by all means, many facets of your cinematic constellation are yet to be unveiled. And there is a piece of Parker in all movies. But when the storms comes, don't you answer life?
Wow, that's quite a lot to process there. I'm humbled by that declaration that you've just announced to the world. I don't know if a piece of me is in every movie, but I certainly like to feel like a lot of movies are part of me. That's for sure.
I made Parker Croft a direct reference to the song lyrics opening the Failing Overnight feature film. And I would love to discuss about this specific title and the song opening that movie.
That piece of art is one that's very close to my heart. So I'd be thrilled to discuss that with you. You're talking about the Sean Rust song that opens the film, is that correct?
Absolutely. The song that mentioned the storm, the rain, and the wind.
Yes. Sean Rust was a dear friend of mine. Well, he's not gone. I just haven't talked to him in a long time. But that film is one that I very much loved the process of and am really proud of, actually, and feel like it has informed my journey tremendously.
Since this very special experience, Parker Croft, you couldn't really get the indie film bug out of your system. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process linked with writing and playing the main character in that specific feature film?
Absolutely, sure. So that film came together in a really quick and somewhat strange way. So I met the director, Conrad Jackson, because he cast me in a pilot, I think almost a year before the film, and he did a show, I guess, a while back called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like with Freddie Prinze Jr. or something. And he wanted to make another comedy show. And so we filmed this pilot together, and that's how I met him. And the pilot didn't end up going anywhere, but Conrad sort of called me up and was like, hey, I really vibed working with you, and I'd love to make a film with you, and I have this concept. And I was like, I was a young actor who just, the idea of like making a feature film on your own was like almost alien to me, the idea that we could just like do this thing. But I was but I was like so excited about it. I was like, sure. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I was like, sure, well, let's do it. And so we brought a buddy of mine, Aaron Golden, who I'd met on a film I did years before called Were the World Mine. And we'd like collaborated on some stuff before, but the three of us, Conrad, me, and Aaron, wrote this film together. And we had to write it like super fast because Conrad was like graduating from Loyola Marymount University, and there was like some student discounts that we could get, but like we could only get them while he was in college there. So we wrote this thing like as fast as we possibly could. I think we wrote this thing in like, I don't know, maybe 2.5 months or something, which, I don't really have a frame of reference, but it's the fastest I've ever worked. And so we wrote it, and then we raised like, a fraction of what a regular movie costs, but it was enough for us to get some, cameras and some sound guys and put this thing together. And it was this like utterly transformative experience for me where I was like, oh my God, like this is something I'm really proud of. I'm happy with the like process of it. And for me, it sort of opened this can of worms of like, wow, you can kind of do stuff your own way. If you give it a shot and you have some people that you can rely on. So, we did this like the whole like festival circuit. It was my first time being at a festival. And we premiered it at, CineQuest. For me, who I'd never been to a festival before, it was like the coolest experience ever. I was like, oh my God. And then we ended up winning I want to say the special jury prize. I don't remember exactly, but we ended up winning like an award there. And all of a sudden it was like, we couldn't believe that anyone responded to this movie. We were just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. So, that definitely lit the indie bug fuse for me, I would say.
Absolutely. Parker Croft, and if I understood correctly, the character of Elliot Carson came to life very quickly because you had a very limited time to write the script, and maybe that falling overnight is probably as easy as closing your eyes.
And I see what you did there. That's some clever wordplay you got going on there, my dude. That was a wonderful reference to the short film I just completed, which sort of is the other end of the two bookends, I guess. We just wrapped on this thing maybe like 2 weeks ago. So we're like right in the meat of post-production on this short film that I'm very, very proud of, and really excited to see it sort of blossoming into its final form. And excited to see where this film goes, and as it's part of a greater series of stories that it's attached to Late Radiance, which is a feature film that set in that similar world. I'm very, very, very excited about those two titles.
Absolutely. And Parker Hendrick Croft, this is a 6-word long short film title that we can simplify with those letters AEACYE.
That's true. That's how that's how production has been like abbreviating it. What was that? What would that be like? That was like ICs or something? I don't know how you'd say that word. Sometimes those abbreviations turn into cool words. There's a cool way it's like an acronym. Yeah. It's a fantastic, sort of segue, I guess, into what this movie is about. It's the story of a grieving mother who becomes addicted to a fictional drug that gives her lifelike dreams about the son she lost. So it's a sci-fi drama that covers some pretty heavy material, but I think it's going to be as beautiful as it is difficult.
It is beautiful and also somehow difficult, but in all the situation, Parker Croft, I feel that you are writing the script the same way you are riding a paper horse.
Another beautiful bit of wordplay you got there. Yeah, paper horse pictures, man. Yeah, it's a little fun fact about the paper horse is that it's actually a company that me and my wife started. And instead of going on a honeymoon, we decided to put the bread into starting this production company, and we've been riding that horse ever since. But it's an empowering thing, feeling like you can make the work you want to make, and that's what Paper Horse kind of gave me.
It gave you a lot of inspiration. And Parker Hendrick Croft, would you say that investing everything in that production company instead of, as you just mentioned, the honeymoon was the best decision in your life?
One of them. I would say marrying my wife was up there too, though. She not a lot of people would be down to make that leap with you. So I think those decisions go hand in hand. But yeah, it is a decision that I am so utterly grateful that I made, and that I had a partner who could make it with me.
Absolutely, Parker Croft. And to come back to As Easy as Closing Your Eyes, this short film is in the middle of post-production and is going to premiere at the beginning of next year. What is your main priority right now? Because I feel that you are rewriting the story during the editing.
Well, in some ways, editing definitely informs the story. You're going to see things that you want to, cut back on. It's hard to add things in the editing process other than digital assets that are going to be sort of on top of things like VFX. But I would say, yeah, right now my priority is I really want to finish the rough cut, and hopefully get it in a place where we feel comfortable submitting the rough cut for Sundance. That's the hope. And if we don't make that deadline, we'll kick that can down the road and submit it to the next one when it's in a better place or more ready, I guess. But I would say a lot of my focus is on just getting to picture lock so we can start, working on VFX and sound design. And I'm excited to start working with a composer on it. And it's just it's a really rewarding process, the editing of it, because you actually get to see the movie. It's been sort of just playing in my head for so long, so it's nice to be able to have it play on a screen,
Absolutely, Parker Croft. And you just mentioned two very powerful words, which are sound editing or sound design. And I would love to discuss about your long time collaboration with Aaron Golden, not to confuse with Paul.
No, you don't want to confuse those two. Aaron Golden has been a writing partner and a producing partner of mine for, I don't know, over a decade now, to be honest. I met him in Chicago on a film called Were the World Mine, where he was, I think he auditioned in school, and I auditioned in New York, and he went to school in Chicago. So, I flew out there and did this film with him. It was directed by Tom Gustafson. And we kicked it off. We knew there was some common ground there, and then he moved out to LA like a year later, and we started like just making like shorts and stuff. Just trying to figure out even how it was done in any way. And then Falling Overnight was our first, feature collaboration, and it sort of galvanized some working patterns that have carried forwards with us. And I've written a handful of scripts with him and produced a handful of films with him, and he is absolutely an integral part of every film that he is a part of. I couldn't speak more highly of him. He's a fantastic artist, and I'm lucky to have him as a collaborator.
Aaron Golden is a fantastic artist and a great person to have in your team. And if I understood correctly, Aaron is adding a lot of depth through the sound quality and the mixing with the music, because he believes in the invisible impact of audio in our lives, the way a great song can make our day, or how a sudden car horn can ruin it.
It is entirely true. He's also a guy who works in sound. So he did the sound. He did the mix and also has boomed a number of projects we've been working on together. But he has, although he's done some post-production sound, I don't think he's going to be doing the post sound on this particular film. I think we're still looking around for the perfect post sound person. But we might go with the guys that we've worked with on Falling Overnight, actually. Evan Menick from Iceman Audio, who's a fantastic sound designer. But yeah, Aaron is definitely integral into the capturing of the sound of this film, and he's very talented in that department as well.
Aaron Golden is very talented in that specific department, and furthermore, Parker Hendrick Croft, I found that there are approximately 75,000 horses in the state of Vermont.
Really?
At the present time, only one paper horse that is trying to catch the sun like a sun catcher.
Oh my God. I love what you're doing here. Yes. Sun catcher. Well, there's a lot we can uncover with that beautiful. It's almost like beat poetry what's going on here. I love it. So Suncatcher, that's the first short film we made with Paper Horse, and it's starring Elisa Croft, who does a magnificent job in the role of Kira, and it's set to the words of The Guest House, a poem by Rumi, which is a poem that has had a very deep impact on me in my life. So we set a short film to those words and explored the story of this woman who's living out of her car, who goes to work one day and returns to find that her car has been stolen, and how she sort of navigates the future there. It was I would almost say it's an experimental film, in that it does have this very like unstructured sort of flow through the narrative, and there's a lot of voiceover and stuff. But I really loved making that film. Strangely enough, I actually have a funny story about making that movie. So we were shooting this thing over a couple days, and as I said, the movie's about this girl who gets her car stolen, and we're shooting down in, I want to say, Playa del Rey, I think is where we shot some of this stuff. And so, a lot, there's a couple of morning scenes, like dawn scenes in it. So we had to like get there like really early, like, I don't know, 4 a.m. or something. And so we get there, we get all the, stuff out of our cars, and we go and we shoot on the pier, and like, we didn't have permits or anything. We were just like totally like just doing it as we could figure it out. But when we got back, Aaron's car had literally been stolen, and his car was gone for the rest of production. They discovered it at an intersection in like, I don't even know, another city, I think, like a month later, a couple weeks later or something. And they were like, yo, your car's in an intersection. Like, you got to pick it up or it's going to be impounded. And he was like, oh my God. So that was a little bit of life imitating a movie there. And it will always be a memory that I revisit when I think about that film.
You will always remember that specific memory concerning that stolen car, Parker Croft. And as you just mentioned, Suncatcher is very experimental. But I noticed that whether this is Suncatcher or Falling Overnight, you have a very specific tropism for coffee shops and bakery counters, especially to make two characters meet each other.
This is true. You might be the first person to, in fact, you are the first person to draw that that line in my brain. But yeah, I don't know why that is. I think coffee shops, I don't know, they're kind of like, there's a charm to them. There's, especially like cute little coffee shops. But yeah, I don't know why. That is an interesting observation you've made. It's interesting. I'll have to examine that further.
You're going to examine that further, as well as examining the 75,000 horses in Vermont. But to come back to the word voiceover, which represents a major part of Suncatcher, you were using the poetry work of Jalal al-Din Rumi, a poet from the 13th century. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so my mom, I would say, is pretty responsible for my love of poetry. I've had a lifelong love of poetry. And I think Rumi is one of the poets that my mom has read to me the most. I find that his work is, I don't know, sort of like, this isn't maybe the right way to describe it, but like palatably instructive. Like, it's, the poets that I really respond to, they're exploring life's challenges, and maybe not necessarily giving like answers. Well, it's rare that I find answers that I feel are like that feel super right to me in almost every situation. And Rumi is one of those. And there was a there was a translation, a recent translation that happened with Rumi that we got the rights to, and that's how we're allowed to, I guess, use it, because he was like, sure, I'd love for you to use this. I can't remember the guy who did the translation, which is like so lame because he deserves to be remembered. But it's somewhere on the internet. I'm sure it could be looked up. But yeah, Rumi has been one of the main poets that I've used as sort of a lighthouse in my journey within, if you will.
Absolutely, Parker Croft. And the translator that you mentioned is called Coleman Borks.
Oh yeah, that's right, Coleman. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he gave us permission to use his translation, and he was super cool about it. And yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for anyone that can, that's like cool about making movies. It's always nice when someone's like, yeah, I just want to, see this thing, be part of it or something. So it was awesome. It was a cool experience.
In addition to that, Parker Hendrick Croft, you may not have found the answers in Jalal's poetry, but you probably did during the recording of a music video. More specifically, a music video that is 248 seconds long. I am talking about Send Her to Heaven by the All American Rejects.
Yes. Yeah, that was an awesome time. Tyson Ritter is a buddy that I met on this HBO show that never saw the light of day, but we filmed for, I don't know, like 4 months or something. And it was actually like one of the craziest experiences I've had as an actor, where, it was kind of like my fantasy, like where, they like take you up to Canada and like teach you how to like all these like survival skills. And like, so it was Lewis and Clark was the name of the show. And it was going to be, I think it was starring Casey Affleck and Matthias Schoenaerts, and it was produced by like Brad Pitt and Edward Norton and all these like way cool famous guys. And I was like, just like jaw on the ground, so excited to like even be in the corner of the room. And it was this like crazy adventure that we were on, where we were like learning how to do all this Lewis and Clark stuff together. And we were up in all these different spots in Canada, but unfortunately, the show didn't get made, for a variety of reasons. I still to this day don't know all of them, but, I think it would have made it such a cool show, and I hope they make it one day, because I think it's got such cool bones. But yeah, so I met Tyson on that thing, and then we stayed friends. And I was like, I didn't know the All American Rejects, which is crazy because like a lot of people, it's a very famous band. And I remember sitting on the bus with him, and he was like, I was like, oh, like, what do you do? He's like, I'm a musician. I remember being like, oh yeah, dude, like my buddy's a musician. It's such like a hard gig. Like, just sort of like, I had no idea that he was like a rock star. And then I don't know, we just kind of clicked, and we kept hanging out. And eventually he was like, hey man, I got this music video coming up. Like, I know you like are doing music videos and stuff. Do you want to do this one? And I was like, dude, I would be like so so excited to do this with you. And again, it was one of those things where we scrapped it together. We had like, you know, there wasn't a lot of bread for it, but you know, Tyson was like, you know, dancing in the streets without permits with a motorcycle helmet on. And like, it was just like, it was a really, really fun experience. And I was lucky that he was down to play. And yeah, now he keeps making amazing music videos. And I think he's directing his own music videos now and just ripping it. He's got a new band now. He's a great dude. I was lucky to be part of that project.
Absolutely, Parker Hendrick Croft, and the video clip of that title, Send Her to Heaven, completely conveys the message of the song. And I would love to know how you are directing a video clip in comparison with directing, for example, a short film or a feature film, because that video clips looks like a super production.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely different. And that's something that, you know, there's some like growing about that. In fact, one of the first cuts of that, music video was way more narrative. There was like all these like kind of scenes and stuff that took place. You know, there wasn't like dialogue, but, there was like scenes and stuff, and it was much longer and much more narrative. And, you know, Tyson kind of had to explain to me, he was like, hey man, like, just so you know, like it's a music video. We got to kind of make it a music video more. And I was like, okay, cool. So we did some reshoots, and all that, like, there's like a lot of like sort of silhouetted, like red musicians are like playing the silhouette and stuff. And we got kind of funky with it. And we were doing this thing called, I think it's called like flaring the lens or something, where you basically like take the lens like completely off the camera. And I'm just like sort of like holding it, like letting light leak in and like kind of pollute the image, and it kind of warps the thing and all that way. So I really wanted to try and do as much cool stuff in camera as I possibly could. Actually, this is sort of a side note, but that house that we shot the video in is Aaron Golden's house. And I remember being like, hey, Aaron, I want to do this music video. And I have this like idea that like everything is like, they get to this house party and like everything is red. And he was like, okay. And I was like, so I'm going to need to paint your whole house red on the inside. And he was like, okay, I guess so. And for like a month, we had all these amazing friends come and help out, and we like painted the whole house and like stapled all these like Christmas lights all over the house. And like, it was a very wild experience, prepping that house for that experience. But yeah, I mean, red was definitely the color of the house. In fact, there's a scene in a bathtub where someone's in a bathtub and they're like, and Kaylee Spaney like takes some like punch. It's supposed to be punch in the bathtub. And I wanted the punch to be like so red. I was like, I want this to be like the reddest punch ever. And I kept like putting like dye in the water. And I put so much dye in the water that the actress who was like in the punch actually got like her skin got dyed red. And luckily she's a friend. And so she was like so cool about it, but she was like dyed red for a little while, I guess. I was like, oh my God. So, yeah, learned about that lesson. But yeah, it was an awesome little time. And I had a great time doing it.
You had a great time doing it, Parker Croft, and red was the color of the house, of Aaron house. And this is the perfect illustration of that winning work triangle between Eliza, Aaron, and yourself, Parker. The PEA triangle.
Well, I don't know if we've ever been called that before, but I dig it. Yeah. These are my collaborators that I've been working with are people that are so informative of the work that I do and have such a impact on my identity as, the things that I like as an artist. And there are obviously areas in the Venn diagram that don't overlap, but there's so much that does that it's almost impossible to untangle, where inspirations come from or where ideas come from, because I'm fortunate to have so many amazing people around me that I can work with and draw upon.
Absolutely, Parker Croft, and I would love to discuss about where everything started in that state of Vermont. Can you tell us what is so special about this place besides the thousands of horses in the nature?
Well, yeah, the horses are definitely a key part. My mom has a couple of those for sure. She's an owner of, I think, 3 mini horses, which are like regular horses, but they're just so tiny. But yeah, Vermont runs through my blood. Honestly, it is a place that I have to return to a couple times a year because it replenishes me in a way that I can't find anywhere else. I was raised there, and the people there are incredible. The landscape there is incredible. For me, Vermont is the best place in the world. And as much time as I can spend there, the better. It doesn't have the biggest film industry in the world, which is why I'm currently also in Los Angeles, but it doesn't stop me from returning there as frequently as I possibly can.
It never stops Parker Hendrik Croft to return to Vermont occasionally. And at some point, as you just mentioned, the film industry is not as at the same scale as in California or New York. This is maybe why you went on the second floor of 65 Broadway Street.
Wow. Yeah. That I can't believe you know that. Yeah. So basically when I was a kid, I knew very little about, the world. Vermont is an incredible place. But it's unique in that, a lot of the hard lessons that you learn outside of the state of Vermont, I didn't learn inside of the state of Vermont. So I remember when I moved to New York, at 18, I was I was sort of this puppy dog, just going around being like, "Hey, how are you? How's your name?" I didn't have, I was innocent to a debilitating degree, and it got me in plenty of hijinks. When I was so hungry when I moved to New York because I just wanted to learn absolutely everything I could about acting. I remember before I moved there, I got a scholarship to this school called Perry Mansfield, which is it's kind of like a summer camp that, there's some acting teachers from different schools and some dance teachers from Juilliard that go there in the summer and they teach, aspiring artists or whatever how to do it. And so it was in Colorado, and I was just, I couldn't believe how cool like art education was. I was like just blown away by it. And I was like, hey, like, should I go to college or whatever? And this one guy was like, yeah, you could go to college, or you could just go to New York and start learning in conservatories. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's definitely what I want to do. So I didn't go to college. I went to Stella Adler. I went to William Esper. I went to Hubert Berghoff. I went to the Actors Movement Conservatory. I went to every conservatory that would have me. And many of those I went to at the same time. And for 2.5 years, I just soaked it all in as much as I could. And I fell in love with New York. I love New York so much. Even though I was like new there, I'd been there for like 15 minutes. I was like, I'm a New Yorker now. Like we New Yorkers are like this now. And I like carried this whole like New Yorker persona around with me. And I remember like in New York, there's this whole like LA, like who cares about LA? LA's trash. And then my girlfriend at the time got into this, my girlfriend and my best friend, we all got into this like sort of extension. It was like a conservatory extension that went to LA that was like acting and film for Adler or whatever. And I couldn't end up going to it because I booked this movie that, Where the World Mine, that was filming in Chicago where I met Aaron. But when I went to LA to visit them. I like was there at the end of their trip or whatever. And then when I came back to New York, it was literally 2 weeks later. I had put all my stuff in my car and I was driving out to LA. I didn't have a place, didn't know anything. I was driving out with one of my closest friends at the time, and still a very good friend, who actually helped make this As Easy as Closing Your Eyes possible. He helped make that happen for us. But his name is Mark Allen, and we drove out to LA together, and we were like, let's just figure this out. And we started like making shorts. We started this like funny little production company, and we started making shorts and just scrapping, just making stuff for YouTube or whatever. And we had a lot of fun together. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't even remember what your question was. I was just kind of like rambling on.
This is very inspiring, Parker Croft, and I was simply mentioning the 65 Broadway Street and floor number 2 because this is the exact location and address of the Stella Adler Studio of Acting, a school that you have been for sometimes in New York City.
That's right. I still remember the smell quite well. It has a very specific acting studios have this like kind of just like New Yorky, like old wood smell. It's like, it's actually quite a good smell. Yeah, it's a great place. I recommend it.
You're recommending that place, and there are the Stella Adler School of Acting, the William Esper Studio Inc., and also the Hubert Berghoff Studio.
Yeah, that's right. Those were some of the ones. Those were some of the big ones that I definitely learned a lot at. It's hard to say. It's hard to sort of like piece exactly what I learned where, because I mean I know what the different techniques are and stuff, but I think by the time I was acting in LA, I certainly wasn't conscious of utilizing those exact techniques that I'd learned in school. I don't know what I was doing, but I felt like I had sort of all turned into this like acting technique gumbo in my brain, and I used what I could.
Using what you could, Parker Croft, and we all know that acting for you is as easy as closing your eyes. But in conclusion, what were your biggest human lessons during that time, doing acting school, lessons that you learn as a human and not specifically connected to acting?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, because so it was the first time I was kind of on my own. I went to boarding school and stuff. So I left home for great periods of time, but this was the first time where I was like on my own for a couple years. And a lot of the lessons that I learned were, oh God, there was like a lot of social lessons that I learned. I think that one of the big lessons that I learned was like when I was young, when I was like 18, I was very, very serious. I took things incredibly seriously, and I think that I thought that the more serious I took things, the more successful I would be or something. The idea was that like any form of like distraction or play or anything that wasn't my goal was something that I wanted to like shun or avoid or something. And I think probably one of the biggest lessons I learned was that, you don't, just because you care doesn't mean you can't have like enjoy life. And in fact, in some ways, enjoying your life and enriching yourself in ways that aren't purely goal driven are things that are going to help you achieve your goals in ways that you can't see, if that makes sense. Like you have to sort of fill up your cup as a person, not just as a person who wants something.
At the end of the road, it always comes down to Elliot Carson, and specifically the opening scene in Falling Overnight, when he's not taking himself too seriously when it comes to the salad dressing choices.
Yes, that's a great scene. That's a fantastic scene. Yeah, don't take it too seriously. And it doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that I don't know. I'm sure there's some way to weave what I said into something that makes sense, but yeah, sure.
I am looking forward to see all of the upcoming Paper Horse Pictures productions. Thank you, Parker Hendrick Croft.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking with you. You are a delight to converse with, my man. Hope you're having a good one.